Hello and welcome to episode 36 of my Working with Todoist series. In this episode, I want to show you how to overcome a real problem that a lot of people experience when they join the GTD revolution. And this problem is the problem of overwhelm. And generally it's caused by us just following the GTD rules, really, which is to capture everything. And so what we do is we capture all these tasks and we put them into lists, and then these lists become very, very long. And in this example I created here for our demonstration, I've created a project to buy a new car. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of tasks in there, and the problem I would have with a project that was built like this is that I would really start to feel quite stressed about looking at this particular project. It's randomly collected together, and apart from the last two which I've highlighted, which is buy new car and pick up new car, all the other tasks are just in random order, just as if I had collected my thoughts on one day and added it in through my iPhone, or just did a quick entry and just then processed it into this particular project. But then when I want to start really thinking about buying a new car and I look at this list, this feeling of overwhelm comes, and then I start to feel stressed about this project. Now, the whole purpose of GTD is the art of stress-free living. So we don't want to create lists that will cause you any particular kind of stress. Now, if you remember from episode 32, I showed you the non-completable task setup, which is using an asterisk before the task. And this is where that kind of process would really, really come in useful. Now, I have a lot of tasks in here. This would probably go through the full range of buying a new car. So what I would do with a project like this probably in my weekly review, actually, I would come together and I would use the non-completable task as a heading. So in this case, we start with the asterisk. I would highlight the subtask. So I would say preliminary. So let's call this preliminary actions. Because what I want is I want to create oh dear, this happened before. I know why I keep going wrong here, and I'm going to leave this in because sometimes you've got to think about what it is you're doing wrong. You need a space between the asterisk and the next word or symbol. Okay, so now I've overcome that problem. I'm going to move this up to the top because this is obviously the preliminary actions. And I have here, I would have think about what I need from a car. That's definitely a preliminary action, so let's move that in. Decide whether I really need a four-wheel drive car. That's another one. Create a short list of 5 cars to look at. I'd probably leave that for another one. And then decide on my budget. And let's have a look. Find out how much cars. Oh yes, that's a preliminary action. The bank rate. Decide whether I want diesel or petrol. Again, I think that would be a preliminary decision. Color would come later because I think so. That would be my preliminary actions, if you like. So we've got think about what I need from a car. Decide whether I really need a four-wheel drive SUV for my American viewers. Decide on my budget. Find out current bank rate for car loan because the bank rate might be lower than the dealership's bank rate. Decide whether I want diesel or petrol. So once I've moved those are the preliminary actions, and I will close that project down, that sub-project down, and then I would move into the next ones, which is let's say choose. I'm going to call this one choosing car. It really doesn't matter actually what you call them, but in this case, just for brevity, we will choosing car. And so we have the second part of this project, which I will move to here. So on choosing car, we definitely create a short list of cars, research my cars, and yeah, I would probably discuss with my best mate Pete about his thoughts on cars, and yeah, I would probably leave it at that for those. Oh, I've just seen one here. Find out how much my current car is worth. That's a preliminary action, so I'm going to move that up there. To move that in, by the way, I have to open up the project, but that doesn't really matter. So close that. So we've got the choosing car. And something else that I've done here, I've added a note. And what I've done is I've created a sample shortlist. I've got here Range Rover Evoque, Range Rover Sport, Jaguar XE, Hyundai Santa Fe, Audi A5. And I've added some pictures in there. Now, let's say I thought, oh, yeah, it'd be nice to add the interior of a car. So let's say I've got this beautiful car here, which is the Range Rover Sport. Very beautiful car, I must say. And I wanted to add in the interior. So I have a picture here on my desktop of the interior of a Range Rover Sport. So let's just drag that in. I can just drag it in from my desktop, add the comment. Sure enough, the Range Rover Sport interior now is in my Todoist. This means that wherever I am doing whatever I'm doing, I have access to these images. So if I want to do some thinking when I'm on a subway or something like that, it's there. So let's see, we've got those. So choosing the car, that's done. As you can see, my list is now definitely getting shorter. The test drive, I think that's a task in itself. So again, asterisk, and then we'll test drives. And let's add that one up at the top. So as you can see, what's happening now is I'm getting my list a lot easier to organize and to look at. It also means that when I look at this list in future, I'm not going to feel any kind of overwhelm because I can open up whichever part of that I've decided to go on. And so we only have these 2 tasks left, which I can add a task for that. So let's just call this final actions. I'm sure there's more to it than buying a car. I'm not actually in the market for buying a car right now. But this is just to show you what you can do. So decide on color. I would probably have to talk to my wife about that. And that's it. So now what I've done is I've gone from what essentially was a list that was overwhelming to a list that is much more manageable now, because I can just take a look at the parts that I'm really interested in to actually finish this project off. And because this project is essentially sequential, there's a bit of research to do, there's a little bit of action to do with the test drives, because I would have to arrange the test drives, and of course the final actions, which is buying the car and picking up the car. But now this project is much more manageable, because these things I'm not going to be doing initially, because at the moment it's a research project, so I just need the preliminary actions. If I close down, all these subtasks, I can go into my routines folder, my work folder, whatever. When I go back to my demo project, it stays open. And that's it. That's how I would say you should, any project that gets beyond 10 tasks, I strongly recommend that you start dividing the project up into different parts. What you'll find with most projects is quite naturally there is a timeline that you would follow. And that's a really good way of putting together your projects. So there you have it. That's how I would, what I would do to try to avoid the overwhelm, because it is the overwhelm that you'll start thinking about things. Oh, this to-do list application is not good for me. There must be a better one. And the reality is all these productivity applications that you can buy, they all pretty much do the same thing. They collect tasks, they arrange tasks in projects. The problem generally is this feeling of overwhelm, because you get way too many tasks into a project and you haven't really organized the project very well. So hopefully that's been useful for you. I hope it sparks some ideas in what you can do with your projects and how you can overcome that feeling of overwhelm. Don't forget to take a look at Anthony Gauna's video that he did the other day. It's an example of what he does when he's on a project that he's doing, which is on his website. And it's a really pretty similar to what I've shown you here. A very good way of avoiding that horrible feeling of overwhelm, because you do not want your lists to become a source of stress. In reality, they should be the opposite. They should be a source of relaxation. They should point you in the right direction. Okay, thank you very much for watching today. I hope you all have a very productive week, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want to get the latest videos as and when I post them. See you next time.